Open your mouth. Spread your legs. Clear. Let's go.
What up? You already know it's your boy Pistol Pete. Welcome back to Dog of the Yard. Today we got Derrick Hamilton in the building from the family and friends wrongly convicted. He was let go on January 2015 by the King County District Attorney's Office. They exonerated him, and ever since he's been home, he's been doing greatness. I mean, brother's been working. I mean, I'm ready to get up with him. But today we got him, and it's a blessing to have this brother on my show, on this platform. And with that being said, let's get right to it, man. Derrick, you already know, wrongly convicted. Dog in the Yard. What up? You already know it's your boy Pistol Pete. Welcome back to Dog in the Yard. And today we got Derrick in the building. What's up, Derrick, man?
What's going on, Pete? Thanks for having me, bro.
Friends and families, by the way.
Yes, family and friends, y'all.
It's a pleasure having you, my brother. I appreciate you, taking the time to come out. I know y'all busy working on a lot of people's lives.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And but before we get into all that, all the good stuff you've been doing, and all the blessings you've been creating out here for a lot of people, a lot of brothers. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your upbringing. I know you're from Brooklyn.
Yes.
Bed-Stuy?
Born and raised,
Bed-Stuy. Okay. That's where Papoose from. Shout out to Papoose.
Yes. Shout it out.
Yeah. So, but a little bit of your upbringing, your siblings. How was your upbringing, and what led you to go to jail and get yourself caught up?
Sure. So as you said, I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in public school. I originally was in Bushwick, and then my family was middle class. I was going to public school, and some poverty-stricken matters happened when I was about 8 years old. My parents moved from Bushwick to Beverly-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn to a housing project, Lafayette Garden Housing Project. And once I got to the projects, it was totally different. If you had a basketball, if you had a pair of sneakers or a jacket, you had to fight for that, right? And I had 5 brothers and sisters. We would always get into, family fights with different people in the projects, man. And either at that time, either you being bullied or standing up for yourself. And after a while with me, I was fighting, man. And once you beat the bully in so many ways, you become that bully, right? You take on that mentality. I was always a smart guy, getting good grades in school, but I became a product of my environment, right? Protecting family members and friends in the neighborhood, man. And it got to the point where one day I bought a gun. All right, because I couldn't beat all of the older guys. They was tougher than me and bigger than me.
Right.
Man, guys was fighting like crazy when I was coming up. And when I first got my hand on a weapon, man, and I fired it and seen how afraid these people were, I was like, I got their number now, right? And this false sense of power, right? This coward in me, because I just should have fought, right? Once I got a weapon, I became abuser in a sense, man. Like, all right, you guys think y'all tough. Now I can level the playing field in my mind, and I was young. And I didn't understand the difference between reputation and character, right? So you going on this rep, you want this rep. And I just got lost in it, man. I'm running around with crew of guys in Brooklyn. We robbing people. We doing crimes. We starting Italians that got number spots and Cubans that got number spots because this is our neighborhood, right? In the process of doing all of this, I got on the police officer's radar, right? They started saying this young kid's running around with a gun.
How old you was?
I was like 17, 16 at that time. And they start stopping me, searching me, and harassing me because they've had them shooting a gun out here in these streets. And one day, around 1983, I had been 17 years old. I'm hanging out with some older guys. A robbery happened. A bread truck driver gets shot and killed in my neighborhood. The police officers is investigating. It was a white male that got killed, and they taking this serious. I'm in a rental car. They pulled me over one day. I fake like it ain't me, saying I'm my brother, whatever, let me go. Long story short, the individuals that actually committed the murder got stopped by the cops and told them that they loaned me their car to do the shooting. And of course the police believed it because I was a young knucklehead running around, had this reputation as being a shooter.
Broken up a couple times.
Right. So they arrested me. And they charged me with the murder of an individual by the name of James Wolfe. And I'm 17 years old, and I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like, how did this happen? You know, I never expected this to be
It went
for
too
me.
far.
Right, definitely went too far. And I know I didn't kill a guy, right? So I knew I didn't kill him, right? And I'm like, all right, well, the truth's gonna come out. You know, the truth is gonna come out. Ain't no way in the world I'm gonna get convicted because I didn't do it. So in the course of being arrested for that, I also had about 3 or 4 other cases that I did do. Robbery, that I'm at 2 or 3 robberies that I had that I did do. So I'm on Rikers Island with these 4 or 5 cases.
Oh, so you was already on the island.
They locked me up for the murder, and then I started getting other cases that people would say, oh, this guy robbed me. Yeah, cases that I did, you know, and rightfully so. So, you know, I'm 17 years old, she's 74, young, wild, running around.
Yeah, how was that, going over the bridge for the first time?
It was like unbelievable, man, you know, because you hear stories at that time. I'm scared to death. This is my first time coming through.
Fuck yeah.
But, you know, once I got in and I came through previously when other cases got bailed out, but now I see what it's really like. You know, police correction officers whooping your ass when you get in the beef with another prisoner. They beating you, you know, beating the hell out you. And there's nobody to run to. Like, there's no family. There's no, you got to handle this. You got to become a man real fast. And then I started going to law library, you know, speaking to my moms and my pops. They're like, listen, man, you got yourself in this shit. You better figure it out. You know, you better start going to the law library, man. You better do something. We told you, man, that, you know, you was going the wrong way. So I wound up going to trial. And the murder case was the first trial that I ever had. During the course of the trial, a witness came in and called my lawyer out in the hallway. And her name was Patricia Lee. I remember her to the day. And said, listen, I'm not going to testify. The cops made me identify your client and said that he committed this crime, and I'm not coming in to lie. I'm not going to do that. My lawyer came in the courtroom and put that on the record and told the judge. Some person came in the hallway and said that they made her go to the grand jury and lie on my client. They brought the witness in. She took the stand and said exactly that. That police officers took her to the precinct, told her, you going to say this, or threatened her. She said it. She went to the grand jury and said it. Said she refused to testify.
You would thought that was it right there.
I knew it was it. Like the judge told the prosecutor, he said, listen, I'm giving y'all to tomorrow to come with something, because if not, I'm dismissing this murder case, right? We come back the next day, judge changed his mind. He says he thought about this all night, and it troubled him. And he felt that me or somebody acting for me had got to the witness and made her refuse to testify at the trial. Now, mind you, I'm 17 years old. I don't got no ability to get to no witness. I'm a kid, right? I don't even know she exists. Right? I don't even know what the evidence is or the discovery is.
The next day, that's crazy.
The next day. So he ruled that he was going to allow her grand jury testimony to be admitted at my trial as evidence in chief, and that I have forfeited my right to confront her. So we can't even call her and ask her any questions of what she told us. He says no. So I was convicted. And I was sentenced to 25 years of life at 18 years old. And this was my first brush with the criminal justice system. And I began studying law every single day, man. I was in the law library every single day, because the lawyer I had, big up to Candace Kurtz, had pulled me to the side and said, young man, get your head out your ass. I want you to read these cases and see what they're really doing to you. They're railroading you here, and I want you to understand what's happening. So she was a blessing to me. And I just started going to the law library every single day, studying law, learning law, learning law. And unfortunately for me, in 6 years, I got a reversal by the Appellate Division Second Department, who overturned that conviction, found that the judge was wrong, that there was no evidence whatsoever to establish that me or anybody acting for me had threatened this witness, and he was wrong in admitting that evidence against me and denying me the right to confront the witness. So in 6.5 years, I went up with 32 and a half life. I got out in 6.5 years. And I got back, man. I got back on the street in my neighborhood, and I felt like
that's a blessing, man.
Everything is good.
6.5 years.
I had a 32 and a half year sentence, man. I got a reversal when I came home. And
you put that work in. You got yourself home.
I worked hard. I worked really hard.
Yeah, you work hard.
You know. So when I got out, things have changed. You know, it was a crack era now. When I left, it wasn't a crack era.
Yeah, what year was that?
I left in 83, and I came home in 89. It was at the heights of all kind of stuff going on, man. And I was shocked, man. It was like you see older parents, man, people that you respected now, cracked out of their mind, man. And it was just a culture shock for me. And I had moved to New Haven, Connecticut at the time. And I was down there, doing a little hustling like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And one day, I got a phone call that said that detectives had went to my girlfriend's house in Brooklyn looking for me. And I'm like, looking for me? It was like, yeah. They said you wanted for a murder. And I'm like, a murder? So I called my lawyer that I previously had, and he said, look, if they arrest you, then call me. He said, if they don't arrest you, just keep doing what you're doing. So I continue with my work. I was opening a unisex salon at that time in New Haven. One day, cops walked in. They arrested me for murder.
In New Haven?
In New Haven. Extradited me back to New York, and I found out that it was regarding Nathaniel Cash, which I had already heard what they were looking for me for. And I'm like, this can't be true. Because everybody in the neighborhood knew who killed the guy. It was well rumored who killed the guy. And I was just, again, shocked, like, damn. Like, now the first time, I admit that I was doing all kind of crazy stuff, and I can understand.
Yeah, you wasn't an angel.
Right,
man.
right.
Yeah.
The second time, I wasn't even in Brooklyn. I was in New Haven at this point in time. And I'm like, how the hell this happened, right? So I was arrested. I was brought to Kings County, again, Brooklyn. And I stayed in there 8 months for another trial. And I was convicted.
And
And
what was your state of mind, though? Like, that shit must have been complicated, difficult. What was going through your mind coming home? You just got yourself out of jail after 6 years and a half from a body that you didn't commit.
Right.
And now here you go again?
and the bad
Shit
part
must
was
be
that
mind, like, fucked up, man.
the rest was mind-boggling, right? When they came in and put the cuffs on me, and I'm in that New Haven, and I'm like, it was March again. It was March of 1992. The first one was March of 1983.
March is not the
March
month.
wasn't my month, right? I'm like, what the
Facts.
hell, right? So, and I'm in there, and I'm like, wow, man. And I believed in the system because I got a reversal, right? I actually did 6.5 years and got out. So I'm saying this time it's definitely going to establish that I didn't commit this murder. It's going to be clear I'm going to get out like this.
Yeah, it's going to be super clear.
Quick. That didn't happen. 8 months to a year, whichever it was, I begin trial. And a witness comes in and says that, a person that I know comes in and says that I killed her boyfriend. She said, I came to the door and asked her where he was. She said, right here. That I pulled out a gun and started shooting and murdered him right before our eyes. And I'm sitting here like, I know this person. Like, and I see how she came in dressed. Something happened. Like, what the hell happened? In my mind, it's like, what made this person come in and just lie? Like, and I'm speaking to her prior to this and all that. And she's like, yo, they tried to get me to go to grand jury. They got me lie. I'm knowing all the facts already. But I'm like, she comes in and say this. So the jury believes her that she seen me kill her boyfriend. They bring a detective in by the name of Louis Scarcella. And this detective says he known me my entire life, that I was a killer, that I killed people all my life. He got the jury believing I'm this dangerous person, and they find me guilty after 3 days of deliberating.
They drew out a crazy picture.
Drew a very crazy picture. So after my conviction, I'm going through the discovery. I'm going through the paperwork.
What
that
year
they
is
gave
this
me.
now?
This is in 1992.
92, yeah.
I'm going through the paperwork that they gave my lawyer during the trial, and I find a statement. It has this witness name in parentheses, Jules Smith. And the statement says that she told the police immediately when they came to the scene that she was around the corner at a store, and when she came back, she saw her boyfriend dead. So the first time I'm saying, what, is this her? And I send an investigator out, and they come back and say, yo, this is her. They go down south and they see, and she says, yes. I told the cops I never saw this crime. She says, and I've been saying this forever. But they locked me up, beat me up, told me if I didn't come in and say this guy committed the murder, I was going to jail myself. I was on parole. The guy that died was a known felon, and they said I was going to jail for messing with him. He was threatening to take her kids away and all the rest of that. So I made a motion, a pro se motion before the judge, before I was sentenced, and I said, listen, I got a document here, and this detective never testified at my trial. He was the arresting officer. Had the jury knew that this witness first told the cops she didn't see nothing, the results of the proceeding would have been different. This is the only witness that accused me. Mm-hmm. Now we know that she wasn't even present when the murder happened. So the judge screams on the prosecutor and says, I want to know what the truth is. Did she see the murder or she didn't see the murder? The prosecutor said, well, she made the statement saying she didn't see the murder. Our position is that she's seen it. Well, the judge said, well, I want to call her back in, and I want to question her about this statement. We got a statement from an investigator saying she recanted. She said none of these things is true. He said, I want to know what's the truth. Did she see it or she didn't see it? The prosecutor's like, well, Judge, I don't want to call her back. He says, well, if you don't call her back, I'm giving them a new trial. Let the jury hear this new evidence that he got. What do you think they would do if they hear it? They call her back. And she comes in and identified the detective, Louis Scarcella, as the person who threatened her, who told her she was going to jail, that said, he made me do this. He said, it was like a play. He told me everything to say and said, Jewel, if you don't say this, you're going to jail. The problem with telling a lie when you talk about murder is that the ballistics evidence and the science got to match.
Right.
So her story that she saw me come to the door and shoot her boyfriend right before her eyes didn't match because he wasn't shot there. He was shot outside in the street with 2 different guns, not one. So ballistics showed that 2 different guns shot this guy. And the first 911 call to the precinct said 3 male blacks fleeing in the red car was the murderers. She said we came and left on foot. So her story just didn't pan out. Despite all of this evidence that we had establishing that I didn't commit the crime, the judge didn't sentence me for a whole year. He kept saying, I can't give this guy 15 years or 25 years if we now know this witness didn't see the crime. He said, I'm just speaking out loud. We give him a new trial. He don't walk out. One day he came in and just changed his mind. He said that he think that I manipulated this evidence, that I have a string and I'm a master puppeteer, he said, that's pulling the strings and everybody is doing what I want them to do. The problem with that was that I used a detective. His memo book. This was his evidence.
Right.
He came in and said this. So I went upstate. I was sentenced to 25 years of life in this case. And again, I blew trial. And again, I was back in the law library, man. Filing every motion.
That must have been mental, man. A mental. You lucky you still stay. You stay insane. You stay good.
Listen,
shit, that must have been exhausted mentally.
That was the most, riding, taking that bus back upstate, man. Was the most. It was the most painful, right, experience in the world, man. Because now, you're like, what the fuck? I'm back to this shit, And I got back up. The first place sent me back to Clinton Correctional Facility, and it was like painful, man. Like you like. And people like, oh, what's up, bro? You like, man. So I immediately got back in the law library, start studying again. And I became even better than I originally was in law. I started helping other people get out. Julio Acevedo was one of the guys I helped get out. He's where 50 Cent got his name from because Julio had killed the real 50 Cent from Brooklyn. He was convicted of that murder. I got him a reversal. So I was starting to make a name for myself, man, getting people out prison and winning cases. But ultimately, every motion I filed, even though I got hearings, I was denied. The prosecutor would go to the judge and say he's a bad guy, that you've been let this guy out, he's a criminal, and they would prejudice the way the judges would think about me.
Just based on that, they deny your shit.
Based on that, judges believe that public safety, right? If a judge think that you a bad guy, forget about it. Because no judge want to sign his name on something for you and you go out and kill somebody or you harm somebody. That's the end of their career.
Right.
And they elected officials in New York. So judges were afraid to let me out because of the hype that the prosecutor just put with my name. And ultimately, every motion that I filed, even though the judge would agree, in principle, I can throw this case out. The evidence proves this. It's on the record. He would deny me. In 2009, after 21 years in prison or something like that, 19 years in prison, I began going to the parole board because I had got a previous 6-year credit from my previous bid. So even though I got sentenced to 25 to life, they gave me 6 years credit from my previous bid under something called the Richardson Law. So I learned that. I applied for it. They gave it to me. So I started going to the parole board in 19 years. In 2009, at that point, I had several evidentiary hearings. I had a pile of evidence that established that I was innocent. I knew who the real killers were. I knew everything. And I started presenting this evidence to the parole board. And I said, look, I'm innocent, man. I got all the evidence to prove I'm innocent. And in fact, the judge in my case said it over and over again, that he can throw the case out, that the case was weak. And I gave them tons of evidence and said, I can't have a parole hearing that a guilty person has, right? I need one that gives the innocent person the chance to prove their case. And they kept saying, no, we don't do that. That's not what the parole board does, right? It says no. So when I challenged them on the 259C, the executive law, and I filed the 1983 civil rights lawsuit against them and argued that if I were to go ahead with my parole hearing, that I would be prejudiced, there'd be irreparable harm, right? That they're gonna look at me as a guilty person. And the federal court judge at that time was told that, look, it's premature, that he's putting the carrot before the horse. He's coming in and saying what's gonna happen at a hearing when he never had it. Let him have the hearing. If he get hit, or if they look at him that way, then we come back and deal with it. So after 2 years of fighting, I had the hearing, went back, and the parole board hit me with 2 years. It said take 2 years. So in the interim of that, let me just tell you a little bit what was going on in prison. During that period of time, when around about 2009, I went to Auburn Correctional Facility from Shawanga box. And when I got to Auburn box, I learned that a couple of friends that I knew over the years from Rikers Island and upstate was in the Auburn Law Library. And there was a guy by the name of Fat Danny Rincon, who worked the law library at that time with Nelson Cruz and others. And I would send down for books from the SHU, from special housing, and they would send them back up to me, put a little note, yo, when you get out, I want you to come work the law library with us or whatever. So when I got out the box, I went down to population, and Fat Danny got me a job in the law library. And they had something called an actual innocence team then. They had guys who were saying they was innocent that would meet in the law library and try to help each other out. So when I got out of the box, I began working there with them, and I began sharing knowledge that I had attained over the years about wrongful convictions, about innocence, and about how to get around what was called procedural bars in the post-conviction realm. So let me explain what that means a little bit. So when you file a post-conviction motion, any time you're convicted for a crime and you're sentenced, that's post-conviction. It's after your conviction. The conviction consists of your sentence and your trial, right? That's your conviction. So you got to file post-conviction motions. In the motion, there was things that said, if you could have filed this motion earlier, we're going to deny it. If you didn't do this, if you didn't do that, we're going to deny it. So there's a lot of procedures to kick you out of the courtroom. So they was denying our motions on procedures. They was never reaching to the merits of our claim. So like me, I've had evidence proving that I was in New Haven, Connecticut, alibis, hotel receipts, police officers, everybody that say, well, I was at New Haven when this murder happened. Guys like Danny had voluminous evidence, man. Informant said he wasn't there when the Quad murder happened, right? So there's a lot of evidence all of us had to prove our innocence. Shabaka Shakur was another guy that was there, and he had alibi evidence. And we would sit around the law library and say, damn, we got all this evidence, and judges is just throwing our evidence in the garbage. We got to come together and figure out a way to let society know what's happening to us. So we start putting our families together, and we build an organization called Family Friends of the Wrongfully Convicted. And we start sending our family members down to City Hall while in prison in Auburn. Okay. So we contacted a guy by the name of Lonnie Surrey, a PR guy, shout out to Lonnie, and he would organize our families. And they had the first rally outside of City Hall to bring attention to it. And it got a lot of press. And my case was featured in the Daily News at that time. And it says, inmate would be free if the court just hear his witnesses. So I used that to go to the parole board the next appearance with a nice parole package. And they looked at all of the evidence finally and said, look, man, it's sad what happened to you. Despite the fact that you was on parole when this crime happened, despite the fact that you did 10 years in special housing unit, there is a lot of evidence here to establish that you're innocent. And they said, look, we're going to give you a shot. We wish you well in getting out and proving your innocence, man, but if you come back, it's over. And they let me go. And that was 2011.
Blessed.
And when I left, I promised Danny, I promised Shabaka Shakur, Richard Rosario, Wayman Aaron, Sherman Adams, all those guys
your comrades,
that was a part of this unit that we had.
Yeah, this movement.
Nelson Cruz, that when I get out, I'm going to do everything I can to get you guys out and bring attention to this wrongful conviction thing. So I ran with the organization, started going everywhere. I immediately joined a coalition to get rid of Charles Hines, who was the Brooklyn DA at that time. He was one of the most corrupt guys I know. and we was able to kick him out and get a guy by the name of Kenneth Thompson elected as a Brooklyn DA. We used to be knocking on project doors, man, in the hood. And they were like, man, what the fuck you mean, vote for a DA? And I ain't voting for no DA, do is lock us up. And we had to teach them that DAs did more than just lock people up, right? And we got him in, and he kept his word. And he put a unit together. He promised that if he get elected, he would put a conviction review unit together that goes back and look at all these wrongful convictions and see if they was actually systemically racist, if they were just railroading blacks and Hispanics in Brooklyn. So when he got in, 4 months later, we rallied against him because he was taking too long. And he began looking at these convictions. And my detective, Louis Scarcella, at the time, was one of the people who I had went to the New York Times and complained about. And I spoke to a reporter by the name of Frances Rollers there, because she asked, she said, why would people be afraid of cops? Are you kidding me? They frame people every day. I said, my detective framed somebody. In 2 weeks, it's going to be in the news. I said, I don't know the guy's name, because the lawyer had came to me and said, look, I was speaking to the DA about your case, and I asked him why they wouldn't reverse it. He says, but there's somebody, I can't tell you the name yet, he told me. He said, but in 2 weeks, that same detective that locked you up, they're going to let somebody out that he framed. He said, who's your lawyer? I told him my lawyer was. 2 weeks later, it's in the New York Times. David Ranter was a guy named that they framed, and it was all over the news that the detective that framed me framed David Ranter. So the reporter comes back to me and said, hey, you told me you had evidence that this cop did it to a lot of other people. Do you got those evidence? I gave her a list of people and all of the evidence, and she got the Brooklyn DA's office at that time, Charles Hines, to look at 50 convictions, including mine. Luckily for us, he got kicked out. Ken came in, I told you, put this unit together, and Ken reversed 22 convictions in 2 years.
Wow. And
said there was a systemic racist problem in Brooklyn, and he was going to change the way that they operated. And that began a wave in New York City where in every district attorney's office, they have these units now that go back and look at wrongful convictions. And to the date, there's hundreds of people.
So they have this now?
They have it in everyone. Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island.
That's great, man.
And you know, they're doing good work, some of them, on these particular cases. But it was our hard work and grassroots effort that got the DA out and new one in. So since that point in time, we began working on educating the public about wrongful convictions. What causes them? How does it happen?
Yes.
Right? A lot of people just don't understand. How, you mean cops got it wrong? How does this happen? Right? How does our identification go wrong? And we began looking at how and what we can do to change false identifications. And we began working with the Innocence Project, Rebecca Brown and others, to change the law that dealt with what they call identification procedures. So what happens now is that the cop who makes the arrest is not involved in identification procedure whatsoever. So he's not there to tell a witness, pick out number 2, or suggest to them in some way who's the person that should be picked out the lineup. So now what they do is something called a double-blind lineup. They put a cop that has nothing to do with it, that don't know anything about the case. He's just doing identification procedures.
That's great.
And there's no more of this showing a photograph before the lineup, right? So now when you go to lineup, you know that the person you're going to pick out is the person you saw in the photograph. These are things that cops used to do over and over again, suggest to the witness who to pick out.
Yeah.
So we found ways to limit that or altogether stop it. And then we talk about false confessions, where cops used to hold people in the precinct a day or two, question them, stress them out, and then get them to confess the things they didn't do after they told them all about the crime. So you might come in and say, hey, man, I don't know about this crime. I didn't do it. And the cop would tell you all the narrative. Oh, you know the guy shot with a gun. The co-defendant said you did this or you did that, and they're telling you everything about it. After 2 days, they said, look, you know, in order to get out of here, you got to confess, man. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be here. And a lot of weak people or people that just psychologically impaired or just can't stand those torturous conditions. Right.
All that, yeah.
They confess.
They confess, yeah.
So now what we got going is we saying that from the moment that a person is in police custody, he should be on video, right? And now if the cops say that the guy confessed, we can see the circumstances which made them confess, right? Not just taking the video at the last minute after all the other things happened that nobody know about. So we worked on that. We also moved to change how junk science was used in cases, right? They would come with fingerprints and tell the jury that this is 100% my print or your print. Without doubt, there's no scientific evidence that could refute that, which is not true, right? Because fingerprints has now been proven not to be that accurate, as they once said. So now you got to tell them what the error rate could be, right? There can be an error of this or that. It's not 100%. And we also worked on discovery bills, making sure that when a person is arrested, that the information that the police have is turned over to their lawyer immediately. In my case, had we had that document where she first told the cops she didn't see the crime at all, I wouldn't have been convicted. Right? They didn't turn it over to the eve of trial when our resources was gone. We was in trial mode, not investigation mode anymore, and we couldn't find out that it was the same person. So we worked on changing the discovery laws, and we did it in the name of Khalif Browder, who an individual that spent 3 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, got out and wound up hanging himself, killing himself because he was in special housing unit and all that. It messed his mental. So we did it in his name, and we called it the blindfold law. So we made discovery be turned over now within a certain time frame. If not, the sanction is dismissing the case. So we worked on a lot of different campaigns to try to make the level of the playing field and to stop some of the things that was identified in wrongfully convicting people. And educate the public about it, because you're going to be on juries. So you need to know that prosecutors are not all that honest, and what to look for. And another thing that we do and we've been doing was actually working on wrongful conviction cases, getting people out of prison who was innocent. And some of the cases that I worked on, one is Wayne Martin. He had life in prison, and he got out about 6 years ago. But the most memorable case is a guy in Louisiana by the name of Vincent Simmons. Vincent was locked up for 44 years. Shout out to Justin Bonus, a lawyer that worked on the case. And when Justin got the letter, he was like, listen, man, we got a case of a guy that was accused of raping 2 white girls in Louisiana. And me being, ex-prisoner and saying, rape, man, I don't know if, I want to work on that case, man. And Justin is a lawyer that I brought from South Georgia. We won a lot of cases together. And like, listen, man, this guy didn't do it. Take a look at it. So when we began looking at the evidence, we seen that one of the females still had a hymen intact, that she wasn't raped at all. And then we got into the fact that when the cops arrested him, when he wouldn't confess, they shot him in the stomach. And they put him in the lineup with shackles on. He was the only person in the lineup with shackles on. And we got deeper and deeper in the case, and we saw
that's crazy.
That Vincent was innocent. We realized that who the real rapists were. It was our own cousin that was raping the whole family, and we found some stuff from the sister on Facebook saying it's messed up. He got that black man in jail for something he didn't do. So we started finding more and more layers of evidence to establish that Vincent was innocent. We went down to Louisiana, and after a 2-year battle, we got the judge to agree that he was innocent and got him out after 44 years. The brother came out at 70-something years old. And it's cases like that, man.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He's out in Houston, Texas now. But look, 44 years, man, in Angola. In Angola, one of the worst prisons in the world. And look, we continue to, fight now to change prison reform. I don't know if you know about the Brooks murder by the correction officers in Marcy Correctional Facility,
I heard about
Ronald
it.
Brooks, man. So that just happened in November.
It's been happening, man.
It's been happening forever, So when we heard about that, we immediately got on the ground and went down to 3rd Avenue and protested big against the governor, asking for these cops to be arrested. It took them 84 days to do it, but we was on their neck. We was in the courtroom when the indictment was announced and broke about them getting bail and being let right out. And we working now to change, how the whole culture of prison is crazy.
Yeah, the whole culture.
So we're looking to change that culture, right? We're looking to really...
The whole process.
Everything is backdated, right? And then their unions is so strong, they set the narrative, right? They went on strike because we was in their ass, right? And they start saying things like their lives are in jeopardy. And I'm saying to the governor and people that would listen, 150 prisoners died last year, right? 31% of them was 40 and under. Not one correction officer died. Whose life is in jeopardy? It's definitely not theirs,
Facts.
right? It's definitely not their lives. So they have set this narrative to make the public think that their lives is in danger, that they need more help. No, and my position was they strike fire all of them bastards because all they're gonna do is go back and murder people, right? 2 months later, what did they do? They killed another young man, 22 years old, had a 5-year sentence in the facility across the street from Marcy where the first one happened, right? So, we've been fighting it to kind of like change that whole culture. We got a couple of bills out with Senator Salazar that we're supporting. And we actually having a few more writ up, man, so that, one, we want transparency, right? We want the Attorney General to stop representing these prison guards that's abusive. If I file a lawsuit when I'm in jail and I says, Officer John Edwards bust me in my head, the Attorney General shouldn't be defending them, right? State's attorney, why are you defending somebody that abused me, that beat me up? You're the state's attorney. That don't make any sense. You spend taxpayers' dollars to perpetrate these correction officers assaulting people. So we're trying to change that as well, and we're trying to make them more accountable, right? If I pop off on a correction officer, bust him in his head, I get a new charge. If he pop off on me, nothing happens, right? How can that be, right? He's the one with the civil service badge. He's the one that's supposed to uphold the law. Absolutely. Right? You're supposed to punish him first to set the example. So we're trying to change that narrative as well and say, look, we want these people held accountable. We don't want to wait till somebody's murdered, that they got to be charged. When the Attorney General would do a job, stop defending them. Want the governor to call a spade, and tell those unions, it's over now. You had, however many years it was in doing that shit to my people, we're not allowing you to do it no more. So that's one of the coalitions you probably hear about that we on. But, our job, man, is really just to give people who don't have a voice. Absolutely. And I mentioned Fat Danny Rincon earlier, right?
Shout out to Fat Danny.
Shout out to Fat Danny,
friend of
man.
ours.
Danny has a case like I had. He's convicted of acquired murder. They said he killed 4 people, was a part of a crew that killed 4 people. There was an informant in a federal case that told the FBI that Fat Danny had nothing to do with it. He wasn't driving the car. Who actually was. The family members of the deceased says Danny had nothing to do with it. All of the co-defendants that's convicted in the murders said Danny had nothing to do with it. And in fact, the cop that framed him, Tebbins, has done a lot of illegal stuff in the police department, but he was having sex with one of the females in the Morales family, was in their weddings and all that, the witnesses against him. And he used them in 3 different murders, right? And every time the son would say he was going to the store to get milk when a murder happened. He so happened to be going to the store to get milk. Danny case is in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in that unit that I told you we got developed from that point, criminal review unit, and they had it for over 3 years. It's been sitting there. Despite all of the evidence that he didn't do it, it's just sitting there. Because Bragg, and all due respect to him, is just not a courageous prosecutor. Terry Rosenblatt, who he has elected to be his chief, is not a courageous prosecutor. And we're going to keep fighting, man. Shout out to Glenn Garber, his lawyer as well, to Danny get out. And we planning on doing a rally soon outside of Manhattan DA's on behalf of Danny, because enough is enough. Yeah. Right? This guy got over 30 years in.
Yeah, 32 years in.
Murder he didn't do. It's clear he didn't commit these quiet murders. It's overwhelming evidence. Anybody that was involved has went on record to say he didn't do it. So these are the type of challenges we take on.
We fight him to the end.
We fight him to the end, man. We don't walk away from a brother,
We're going to fight that one. We got to get Danny out.
We got to get Danny out, man.
Yeah, it's just not it. And as far as prison reform, did y'all implement anything in regards to like getting cameras for the COs to have cameras inside, like on a certain point, these on the receiving room?
Right.
I know they probably can't have it throughout the whole facility,
right?
But to our worst times, which is like when you get to Comstock, you get to these jails, and they put your head on the wall for half an hour, just abuse you for for no reason.
For no reason.
Shit is crazy, like.
And you see how you just said that? That's the norm, right? The public don't know that. That's the norm.
Oh, that's the norm. We can all talk about it.
We can all talk about it.
We all with it's like an underworld between us, brothers that been convicted and been up top up north.
Yes.
We can all talk about what we go through when we go to certain facilities.
Yes.
And it's like a norm.
It's a norm.
It's just not knowing that That's not really. It was never supposed to be like that.
It was never designed to be that way. The tension that the correction officers create.
Yeah.
Right? They create that tension.
Of course.
Right? Immediately when you get off the bus, they create that tension.
As soon as they look at your number,
yes.
They talk. They on you. They on you.
They on you. Right? And these are the people that's been entrusted with rehabilitating people. Right? So we got to change that. So yes, the governor has put millions of dollars in to make sure that body cams are in every facility. Right? And you got to remember the officers that killed Mr. Brooks, Ronald Brooks, had body cams on. They thought they was off. So if it wasn't for these body cams and being able to see how they brutalized this young man, choked him and kicked him and beat him,
another one.
it would have been just another one unreported.
Unreported.
They always say it's unreported how he died, right? And that's another problem. We saying that we want independent medical examiners on every murder that happened now, right? We want to know. How you unreported? You're a medical examiner in the county. Of course you don't want to tell on your cousin. And these little counties with these prisons, everybody know everybody. They're all family. They're all related.
They're all related.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you can't get justice in those little towns because they're all racist. They all don't like blacks and Hispanics.
That's
right?
facts.
And they feel that they can do what they want to do with us. Nobody going to do anything to them because of the jurisdiction.
We in their house.
Right. Right. So we're working on changing that. Of course, we're working on getting as visual as we possibly can. But more than anything, working on getting these guys out. Right? Second look at. Right? If a guy has been in prison 15, 10 years, got an immaculate record, doing the right thing, he should get a chance to petition to a judge and say, Your Honor, like, I'm rehabilitated. This is the things that I'm doing. And let a judge decide, should he go to parole? Let the parole board decide if he should get out.
That's great,
right?
Man.
And then we also working on the 55 and elder bill. Shout out to Rap, Hamza, and this is their bill. It says that guys age out at a certain age. Right, 55 and over. These guys are not coming out here, man. Most of them to commit a crime, and we saying that they should have an opportunity to go to a parole board. Let a parole board decide whether or not they should get a shot to come home or not.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's some bills that's out that we working on, man, to try to get guys out earlier.
Because there's a lot of brothers in there that's been in jail for a long time.
Yes.
And they owe, and they ain't coming home doing nothing but just get a job and live the rest of the 20-something years they got left.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Whatever they, God bless, but that's just the truth.
Right.
And I think that's a great bill. I think everything y'all doing is great, man.
Yeah, so that's some of the initiatives that we supporting. And, we got, there's another one called Challenging the Wrongful Conviction Act. So one of the things that I did when I was in prison, and I told you about the procedural bars of the post-conviction statute, that was keeping a lot of people in prison.
Yeah.
In my case, for the first time in New York history in 2014, People versus Hamilton, the Appellate Division 2nd Department ruled that can't happen anymore. They said innocent people should have a forum to be heard, irrespective of any procedural rule. They said procedure should never throw innocence out. So they said that as long as you meet a certain criteria with the evidence of innocence, judges must give you a hearing. So that opened the doors for a lot of other people to be able to get in that was innocent.
Yeah.
The problem with the rule is the Court of Appeals later on modified it that says, okay, only if you went to trial. So if a person pled guilty and evidence come out now that he's innocent and he only pled because he was afraid of going to trial and being convicted, that he can't come in and argue. So you're moving to change the law on that as well, on something called the Challenging Wrongful Conviction Act.
Shit, I fall under that.
You know what I mean?
I was a scared young man, was afraid. I was out there getting in trouble, just like you was, involved in all kind of shit, right? Because that's all we was doing, robbing and stealing.
That's
and
right.
Everything that we could get our hands on.
That's right. That's what's up.
Right? Without even thinking of nothing.
That's right.
Then got caught for something I didn't do.
Right.
And I ain't doing, man. That shit really fucked me up, man. I was like,
what?
I know I did all this.
Right.
And I know I wasn't an angel.
Right. That's karma. Right.
But I'm like, damn.
Right.
I wasn't nowhere around when this incident happened. And I think that's great, man. I think that's a great thing.
So we definitely trying to get that passed as well. And we continue to like be active in the community. We got a town hall coming up in Brooklyn tomorrow on Notion and Dean of the church. And we stay in communication with the community, man, letting them know that together we make change, man. If we don't tackle this system together, then we fuck, man. We fuck.
Man, I love everything y'all
you know,
doing.
and
Derrick.
local elections is the most important.
Yeah,
People don't realize that. They worry about Trump, right? And Trump is not going to do much in New York City. We got to worry about who our local prosecutor is, who our mayor is, who our assemblyman is, who our borough president
is. What's really affecting us?
Right. On a day-to-day basis.
Really, no, he's somewhere else.
Right. He's in Washington, D.C. and Florida.
Absolutely.
Right. We need to make sure.
Terrorism and all that.
Right, and all that. We got to make sure our elected officials right here got our best interests, making sure that our community is safe. It starts from the community, man. Start from right there.
Well, I want you, Derrick, I want to just point out that I love everything you guys are doing, man.
Thank you.
And you could definitely count me in.
Thank you.
You know, I do a lot of work in regards to a lot of brothers, going back to the prison and the jail system in our city, Rikers Island.
Yes.
But I would love to, 1,000,000%, anything that you could use me for, anything you could always count on me. You could reach out to CK,
yes,
the manager, be like, yo, Pete, we need Pistol here.
Yes.
We need him to be involved in this. This is big. And I'm there. Like,
thank you, brother. Thank you.
And the platform, Dog in the Yard, this is the reason this is created, because this platform is for us.
Yes.
So for things like what you're doing, with
I love it, brother.
The great work that you're doing. So with that being said, anything that you could do in regards to having a commercial done,
yeah,
you more, no charge here.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't doing this is not anybody else giving me sponsors.
Got you.
This is for us.
I got you.
So if you create a commercial and fit it in, you could contact CK, get a nice commercial of what y'all doing, with all your information and how to contact to make what you're doing bigger and greater.
Yes.
I would love to have that, and I will place it on my Dog in the Yard channel.
We definitely do that, brother.
You know what I'm saying? So every time my episodes come up,
it's there.
You'll come up.
It's there.
Every time my episodes come up,
yes,
your information and what to contact for those loved friends and family. They got their loved ones in prison with they ain't do the crime and they want to reach out. They'll be able to reach out to you guys or anything that's going on.
No question.
That we might be able to help them with and assist them with.
Appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying?
So let me just tell you another one of my jobs, if I should say. Again, another one at college. All I got is a GED. I studied law over 30 years. I work in the Cardozo School of Law. We teach forensic science, and I lead a field clinic and supervise 4 lawyers and a bunch of students to work on actual innocence cases. The resources at this college are way more than the non-for-profit organization, so we're able to reach many more cases through this college setting than anything else. But I say that to say to the young brothers and sisters, man, coming up, that whatever it is, man, that you dream of doing or find a passion to do, you can do. Like, I'm in rooms with people that got doctor's degrees, master's degrees, and everything else. And when they talk about their accolades, I start out by saying, I got a GED. But everything I say is just as important as what they say.
Absolutely.
Knowledge, is knowledge, right?
Powerful.
It's powerful.
Absolutely.
So no matter what your degrees are, pick a book up, man. Always educate yourself. I'm self-taught. Everything I ever learned is from picking the book up and finding the time to read it. Not going to institutions. In fact, I love school. I think the schools are very good, but I think also it indoctrinates you how you think sometimes if you're not strong enough to have your own will. So I believe in the miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson.
That's right.
Right? That we can educate ourselves, man, to be whatever it is we want to be.
Absolutely.
Right? School ain't for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? School ain't for everybody. Some people gonna be entrepreneurs, man, or come out and be whatever. But just don't give up on yourself, man. Know that you got a voice, man, that you perfect, man, that God made you in a way that you could do anything it is you want to do.
That's fact.
And don't be limited, man. We change the world.
I mean, it's proven. It's right here. It's in the flesh, right here. Living proof, right here. I mean, person with no education.
That's right.
Turning around and change his life, going back, giving back to our community.
That's right.
Giving back to our brothers that's in lockdown right now that needs that chat.
That's right.
That I needed when I was in jail.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So they could get on the right path and get with contact with their lawyers and whatever they need.
That's right.
In the system and all that with all that. So and man, listen, man, it's only God's work, man.
It's God's work, brother.
You know what I'm saying? But it gotta come from here.
It got to be a passion.
You got to be a passion. You got to be able to want it. You got to be able to want it.
You got to be able to want it.
You know what I'm saying? And I love that, man. You mentioned that you spent a lot of time in the box. I want to What was the?
I did 10 years in special housing unit, man. 7 straight, then 3 more. Again, man, I was litigated, right? So I would write up everything. I would litigate. I would sue all the cars or whatever. And in the retaliation, they would just keep me in the box, set me up, right? Every time I give them a urine, it was dirty. It was marijuana in the urine every single time. Yeah. When I give them water, it was marijuana in the urine, no matter what, right?
You wasn't getting no justice up in there.
No violence, 10 years for dirty urines, man. 10 years, right? Today, the Horde Act prohibits that, right? Says you can't lock somebody up in segregation when he's not a threat to the safety and security of the facility, right? How do you do that? So, today they can't do it anymore. But when I was there, man, they was giving guys years and years in special housing unit for nonviolent offenses, and, the box was terrible. Guys throwing shits, banging all day, making noise. So the object was to drive you insane. The reason why they would put you in there is for you to lose your sanity, right? They was getting off on us, sadistic-minded guards. They loved to see blacks and Hispanics come out, crazy, bugged out. They figured they accomplished something.
Yeah.
God bless me.
To say cell to hurt each other.
Yeah, but God bless me, man, to come out stronger.
Absolutely.
And being able to, but I seen a lot, man. Seeing guys poke their own eyeballs out, hang up.
Yeah.
All of that in there, man. It's degrading, brother.
Oh yeah, of course. They
know
come
that.
out, mental health is important.
Oh man,
So that's brothers come out of there picking up cigarette butts.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they want to know why we got a stigma against mental health.
Yeah.
Because we seen people over medicated.
Of course.
Guy go in, you think he rugged, he come out shaking now, his hands can't stop moving, he's trembling, picking up cigarette butts. How did that help him going to mental health? It made him worse. So, our experiences gives us, reason to have pause when you talk about mental health. But I'm here to say to anybody, man, that's leaving prison, right, get diagnosed, man. Don't be afraid, man.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
To go see a mental health
them
expert,
all the time.
man.
Mental health is important.
Yeah, you got to go, man.
If you feel like you need it,
get it.
Don't be ashamed.
Right, get it.
It's okay because only you got to deal with yourself.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Live with yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Ain't nobody else, your friends and family. At the end of the day, you're going to wind up going to sleep by yourself.
That's right.
And it's going to be that moment where you might need that help.
You're going to need it, man.
So we in a different time.
That's right.
I tell brothers all the time, we in a different time. Go out and get the help, man.
Get it.
Don't make you less of a man.
That's right.
Don't think for young brothers out there, oh man, they're gonna make jokes about me going. No, man.
That's right.
Let
them make jokes.
Yeah, let them make jokes, but you're getting the help that you need.
That's right. Don't let the
saying?
joke be on you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You wound up back in prison because you had a mental health episode.
Absolutely.
That you could have cured, man.
I usually ask my guests about prison reform. In this case, you doing everything else that has to do with prison reform. You know what I mean?
I think that terminology, look, I think that society owes people to get out of prison a lot, right? Until they begin to recognize that, right, and treat human beings like human beings, right? And I say to people when I'm in a room, right, because I always believe that the people closer to the problem is closer to the solution, right? And they got people that never been in prison, got their own idea. I'm saying, no, let's hear from the people that been there.
Yes.
They'll tell you what they need, right? Housing, jobs, right? How does a person work 20 years in DMV, right, in prison, and get out and can't get a job? DMV won't hire him, right? But he made license plates, so they work for 20 years. We got to change that whole mentality, man. We got to realize that you're talking about Mexicans work hard, people from different... Man, these guys in prison work hard.
Work hard too. Yeah.
Give them a job. You're going to see how hard they work.
Absolutely.
Oh,
everybody just need that opportunity.
They need that opportunity.
Need that opportunity too.
That's it.
And we can work as hard as you see every other culture work.
Yeah. Don't be afraid.
That's what it's about.
Don't be afraid.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Derrick, man, I want to thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Bro,
I appreciate you. I like the work that you're doing.
Yeah, man.
I like the work that you're doing.
Always have you anytime you want.
Definitely.
You're more than welcome to come up here. Dog in the Yard is your platform.
Appreciate
it. For the brothers, man, to let it out.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? To give it knowledge for these young brothers out there and all that, man.
Yes.
Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, brother.
I love what you do, man.
Thanks
Everything
for having
you
me.
do, I'm here. I'm supportive. Anything you need, you can call me, the Fat Danny Ratty.
We're going to do that.
Let's do that.
We're going to do that.
I want to make sure that anywhere you want to elevate your program and everything that you do.
Yes.
You want to do a commercial, have it attached to Dog in the Yard.
Yes.
Reach out to CTK. All you got to do is just get it done. Make it, or not he'll help you get it done.
Yes.
Make it official on camera, and we put it up there on my website, and everybody in the whole world can see it. They can get the information they need for those that need it.
We appreciate it, brother.
You know
We
what I'm
appreciate it, man.
And with that, man, go ahead. What else you got to say, man?
Free
Talk
Fat
to me.
Danny, man. That's it. Free Fat
You
Danny.
already
That's
know,
it.
man.
Free
You already
Fat
know. It's your
Danny.
boy Pistol Pete, Dog in the Yard. Thank you, Derrick.
Yes, brother. Thanks for having me.
Family and friends.
Yes, family and friends, y'all.
All right? You
Yep,
already
yep.
know. It's your boy. What up, what up? Welcome back to Dog in the Yard with your boy Pistol Pete. First and foremost, I want to thank Derrick for coming through. Appreciate you, man. I love what you're doing out there. Your family, your friends, wrongfully convicted. I mean, y'all moving. As I see it to this date, you guys are got exonerated like 16 brothers, you know, and it's big. Keep doing the great work. I'm ready to catch up with you, and you already know I'm here. The platform is here. Dog in the Yard is here. Anytime you're ready to come back, you already know. Your boy, Pistol, Dog in the Yard.